Before we get started, if you are interested in CBD or finding a new CBD supplier, I've partnered with Hopewell Farms and you can get 10% off this very high quality CBD. I take it every single day. It helps with meditation. It helps with my health in general, and we have 10% off with code Lily10 in the description. And I have a channel DNA activation available in the description. It's a 1-hour channel DNA activation to help you activate your DNA, your gifts, along with a workshop that will also help you to connect with your star family. So if you want to bump it up to the next level, make contact, activate your DNA, then there is a link in the description. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starseed Chat. I'm Lily Nova, and I have Jessica Jones here with me. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Sasquatch and cryptids. Let me go ahead and read Jessica's bio. So Jessica Jones is a paranormal investigator and remote viewer based in Southwest Georgia. She is an active field researcher and member of Enigma Research Group, Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, and North Georgia Cryptid Researchers. All are action-oriented research groups which conduct field research associated with all things paranormal, particularly Bigfoot. These groups have attained groundbreaking evidence at several paranormal hotspots hubs in the southeastern United States, comparable to the infamous Skinwalker Ranch. So what sets her team apart from other groups is that they are all trained in remote viewing, which has just become something that I've always been interested in it. But since the conference, the Journey to Truth conference, I'm getting all sorts of signs that that's what I need to focus on now. And it's so I'm excited to talk to you about that. And Jessica's also assisted in missing persons cold cases. She has presented her field research at disclosure conferences and is often interviewed on podcasts and radio shows across the globe. And how I discovered Jessica was, well, she also, you also are on Space Out Radio, and I've done a couple interviews on there. But recently, the Journey to Truth conference, you were a presenter. So thank you, Jessica, for coming on. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun getting to hang out with you at that conference, and just everybody that was there. It was life-changing. It really was. It was awesome. So yeah. And everybody needs to learn remote viewing, by the way. I think so.
Definitely. Yeah, I've always been like interested in it, and I've dabbled in it a little bit, but I haven't, like, you do it in a very technical way. Like, you have somebody else assign you a target, and we'll go into that because I'm sure members of the audience are curious about it too, but we'll get into that. But I just love that that's a part of it, as well as capturing like the more physical evidence. So you're actually out in the field documenting these things. And so usually on this channel, we talk a lot about UFOs, star beings, the spiritual aspect, as well as making contact, or CE5 officially known as, so calling in UFOs and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to have an actual like field researcher, and it's all connected.
Yeah,
all of it.
Totally. And and I'm a Bigfoot field researcher. That's my foundation. That's how I started off. But the first time I ever went out Bigfooting with the team, we were having UFOs in the environment. And I mean, we've documented everything from portals to like light beings to orbs, to, of course, the Bigfoot, and things like that. But it's just a whole wide range of stuff going on out there. So we don't even really say we're totally just Bigfoot researchers now. We're just paranormal field researchers at this point, just because there's so much stuff. And it's totally connected, all of it.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Growing up, I was always interested in like the ghost adventures, ghost hunting shows, the paranormal stuff like that. It always piqued my interest. And then whenever I started having that stuff happen to me, I was like, oh my God, like it's really out there. It's really happening. So I just read your bio, but is there anything else you want to add, or can you also kind of share a little bit about what you do? And maybe we can go into a little bit of your origin story, like how you got started in this.
Yeah, well, right now I'm a show host and stuff. I have a YouTube channel. It's the Cryptid Huntress, where I do live shows a couple times a week, and I also am host at Spaced Out Radio. Dave Scott does the weekday shows. Then me and we have a show called After Hours that comes on after mine with Marquise. We have the weekend slots out there, and we have a really good time. I interview a lot of people from all over the world, mostly the United States, though, about their research when it comes to cryptids, their personal experiences. I brought most of my teams. I'm a member of like 3 different teams. Brought a lot of them on my shows to talk about their experiences and show their evidence and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, I started off as a Bigfoot field researcher. That was in 2011. And somehow I never meant to go public, Lily, ever. Like that was not on my agenda. Especially since I started back in 2011, back then I was working with the government. So I had a job working with the state of Georgia. And I had no intention of telling everybody that I was out chasing Bigfoot on the weekends, and but that's kind of where I am right now. And I didn't go public for 10 years on all this stuff. And I was asked to speak at Camp Disclosure in Georgia a couple of years ago. And so I was hesitant, but I did it. And I met some amazing people that I'm still friends with to this day who have really it's been an amazing network, and just a totally amazing network of people. And, I ended up going on Apollo's show, Apollo's Odyssey. And her producer came on and offered me a slot over there at KGRA when I went on her show. And because I don't think there's a whole lot at the time, there weren't a whole lot of boots on the ground field researchers that had shows and stuff like podcasts, I guess. I don't know. Not women, at least. Not maybe a couple, but none that I had really heard of. And so, yeah. So I added to that mix. And it's really interesting because I'm very active in my research. Matter of fact, I'm headed to the woods this weekend. I'm going to an investigation in Tennessee the weekend after that. And in addition to trying to get my shows in and stuff like that. But I think it's important to keep doing all that research, not just I'm not just a podcaster, at this point. I'm out there trying to squeeze everything in so that I can come back and talk about it. And I think it's important because I like to say that we're raising the consciousness of the planet one Bigfoot sighting at a time. Okay. Yeah. And I think it ties into so many other topics that were even discussed at the Journey to Truth conference. You name it, ET experiences, geological finds, and things like I had just had Jock Doubleday on my show, and this week, and he's talking about how the Earth was made and the terraforming of Terra, that it might all be a grand design from aliens or something. It's just this really interesting stuff, but it all ties together with what I'm doing, what we're all doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. This morning, whenever I tuned in, because there's been a lot of stuff that's happened over the past few weeks, but especially over the past few days, you've got Mel Gibson, who's coming out with a whole thing on the human trafficking, a whole docu-series exposing a lot of that, it's all connected, unfortunately. UFO whistleblowers coming forward. And I was tuning in this morning and they showed me a vision of, it's like a web. All of this is a web where we have a piece to the puzzle. We're all in our different areas, doing our different research and having our different experiences, sharing different stories, but it's all connected and it's actually finally starting to all come together and happen.
It's interesting too, and it's like people in different fields that you didn't think were related are all completely interconnected, and it's interesting too because when I worked for the state of Georgia, I worked for a women's organization. I was their executive director, and we worked with the human trafficking issue here in Georgia. We have a terrible human trafficking problem, and especially around Atlanta. Wow. With like the sex industry is like actually is second only to Las Vegas. Here in Atlanta. So, I'm very, very in the know as to what's been going on with that for a long time. I worked at that job for nearly 20 years. Wow. And so, yeah, and now I'm a Bigfoot researcher, public with it these days. But in my previous life, that's what I did. I dealt with that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. See,
Yeah.
I didn't know about you hear about that, but you don't it's so terrible, it doesn't like, you don't even wanna
Yeah.
believe it. I didn't believe it until I actually was being followed one time, 3 days in a row. It's whenever I was going out in the field, making contact each and every day, documenting it with my camera, and I would be by myself in these areas, getting a little bit off topic, but I realized I was being followed by people, and it was crazy, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's real." So that's happening, but, but anyway, so that's awesome that you have some background in that too, and with what you do. So what are cryptids? Can you tell us, what are cryptids?
Yeah. Cryptids are any kind of a creature. People call them monsters and stuff, but any kind of creature that's not been, it's not recognized officially. Okay.
Mhm,
And I know that with all the evidence of Bigfoot, okay, some people say that Sasquatch are not cryptids, that
mhm,
they're actually a tribe of humans, a big hairy humans. Some Native American tribes say that Sasquatch is not. They're not cryptids. Okay, they're just another tribe of people. I'd have to agree with that somewhat there. Okay,
mhm,
but cryptids are just stuff that have not been recognized as an official animal, basically.
mhm.
Um, I mean, and like I said, it could be Sasquatch, Dogman, Loch Ness monster. I mean, we have modern day dinosaur sightings. Those are, I guess those could be considered cryptids, kind of, because they're not supposed to be here. It's stuff that's not supposed to exist. And that's my specialty because I'm documenting and I'm experiencing it and serving it to the public on a platter here to
Yeah,
talk about it
mhm.
in a lighthearted way because it's unbelievable sometimes when you encounter things that aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to go into some of the evidence that you've documented, but real quick, so did you have a first experience that really just blew you away and made you decide, okay, this is what I want to pursue, or something that just opened you up to all of it?
Well, I've had experiences with the paranormal since I was a kid, and when I was a kid, I would see ghosts, and I had a fascination with any kind of book that had to do with the paranormal. When we were small, when I was little, we didn't have all these ghost shows and stuff. I had to wait till October I mean, we had like 5 or 6 channels on our television back then. I'm
Yeah.
dating myself. You know how old I am. But I had just a few channels, and I think on channel 36 or 46 or one of those, there was in October they would have some ghost shows or something about Frankenstein or some kind of monster show. But I always had to wait until October for Halloween month, and that was my favorite month to watch television. But I would take my little nap mat from kindergarten and I would put it in my front yard. I grew up on a farm out in Georgia,
Mhm.
and I loved looking for UFOs at night,
Wow.
and that was my thing. So it was a little odd, not all kids were into UFOs, I guess, but I
Mhm.
just always had a connection to the paranormal ever since I was a child, and it runs in my family. I come from a long line of very intuitive women,
Mhm.
and even my father, like both sides of my family had paranormal occurrences from ghosts in their house to my great grandmother and my great aunt had a possible abduction experience with an ET, like a UFO that flew over their car one night, driving down the highway. Well, they said it was just a white light that enveloped their entire car. They flew over them. And the next thing they know, they were a couple of counties over. It was an hour or two later. And they were missing time and they don't know how they got to where they were. Still driving, by the way, in
Ah,
their car, just in another location. So, yeah,
wow. Crazy.
that was in 1982.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
That's
it's
awesome.
been a while.
Mhm.
But yeah. Anyways, we just have a lot of that stuff going on in the family. And yeah. And when I was in my early 20s, I guess, or I don't know how old I was, my mom was going to these meetings and meetups. I never said I wanted to do Bigfoot research. That was not something that was on my agenda at all.
Mhm.
And I went to a meeting with my mom of these gentlemen who were watching, or not watching, they were doing Bigfoot field research in North Georgia. And I went to go
Mhm.
watch them. And when I got there, I had a lot of questions for these guys, but they had a whole lot of great evidence. And there were professional trackers, human trackers, and animal trackers. And I had some questions like, well, why have you guys not found a body to a Bigfoot? Like, where's the poop at? Like, where's all, all these typical questions. And they saw that I had an interest, and they actually invited me on an expedition with them.
Wow.
And so of course, what is like the best way to see if Bigfoot's real? Well, it's to go spend a weekend with a bunch of strange men in the woods.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and I started from the very first time, like the first night that I got there, I was having outrageous like activity, from Bigfoot activity to like UFOs. A lot of strange things happened that weekend, a lot of stuff that made me a believer. And they eventually asked me to join their team, and I've been doing it ever since. It's been a while, and so that's how I got into Bigfooting.
Wow.
It just came across my path. So
that's how it happens, huh?
Absolutely. Like I don't question anything. I go with the flow, and that's why I take all the opportunities. And when somebody offers me an opportunity to do something cool, I do it.
Right.
I try to. Yeah, I will block off some time on my schedule to do weird stuff. Okay. Yeah,
definitely. And we had some interesting experiences while at the Journey to Truth conference. Maybe we could talk about that for a minute. So there was actually a tribe of Sasquatch there. And this is in Illinois, right next to St. Louis, Missouri. So what do you have to say about, I know you guys caught some audio. What was your experience with Sasquatch during the conference?
Yeah, I didn't personally have a lot of experience there, but I was with James. James Rink was up there with us, and Barry Everson, and we had a really good time. Daryl and Anne-Marie, and we went up the last night. I believe it was the last night that I was there, because we were all having to go. A lot of us were having to go to the airport the next morning to go home and to fly out, and so we decided to go hike up to the mountain, or the top of the hill, for behind our cabins. And it was a beautiful night, and the wind was blowing, the stars were out, and we just were feeling called to go up there. And so we went up and went and laid in the grass and watched the stars. And I mean, just had a blast. And I could energetically feel that there were some Sasquatch in the area behind us where we were sitting. But I didn't hear them. I was just energetically feeling it, and kind of connecting with them a little bit. But they
valid.
were,
that's
yeah,
still valid, feeling them
for sure.
You can't prove it, but that's how it happens with me a lot too.
Oh yeah. So it was there, and so we were. I guess James had on his recording device, and not only was he telling amazing Bigfoot jokes, we were having a lot of fun. But when we were all walking back down to the camp where all the cabins were, some of the people that were with us were a little spooked because they had heard some strange noises, and a lot of the noises you hear out there. I mean, a squirrel can sound like a 500-pound lion out there. Okay, sometimes. So I went forward with some of the ladies that were out there and walked back down with them. And James and Barry stayed behind, and they got some interesting recordings, actually. Some grunting and some shuffling and all sorts of stuff was going on. And James was really communicating with something out there.
Wow. Yeah, I loved that. And if you guys are interested in hearing that, James Rink did an episode where Jessica was on there, and they shared this audio recording footage. It's kind of like some grunting and weird beeping noises also.
Yeah. And that's I want to say it's kind of typical to get stuff like that when you're recording. You don't hear it with your own ears. Mm-hmm. But then if you're using a recording device, which we do pretty often out in the field, you'll go back and listen to it, and you hear things that you didn't hear with your bare ears, your naked ears, I guess you could say. And so a lot of it is very mechanical sounding, and beeps and whistles and stuff like that.
Kind of like digital sounding, maybe.
Yes, very digital. There was one time, one of the first weekends that I had ever gone out on an expedition with my team. I had a recording device on, and we had some potential we definitely had UFO activity that day and that night, but we knew that something else had happened because we were missing time. Our equipment had malfunctioned. And so the guy that I was out there with, his had gone forward in hours and mine had gone backwards an hour, or vice versa. And we felt like there was something terribly off. Okay, something had happened. We didn't know what it was. And yeah, I went back and listened to my recording device. I had the head of my team with me when I finally got up the nerve to listen to it, because I was scared to listen to it, because I knew that I was going to hear something that I didn't, either want to hear, or that I just didn't know happened. And around the time that our devices were messing up with the time, going forwards and backwards and things like that, it sounded like bottle rockets were being shot off all around us. And it was so loud. It was like fireworks were being shot off. Pew, 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 pew. Literally all around us. And it went on for about, a few seconds, maybe 15 seconds or so, maybe more. And we did not hear that with our own ears at all. What's really interesting too is that as soon as we heard that, the recording deleted. So I was glad that the head of my team was able to hear that with me, and then it deleted all by itself off of our equipment.
Wow.
And that happens more often than you'd ever think. Stuff like that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And at this time, you're like basically like alone in the woods in the middle of the night.
Well, we have strict protocol. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, we
have
have protocol.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us about the protocol, or what you and your team do to whenever you go out and do this investigation?
Yes. Well, it's safety first. Okay. That's number one. We're very safe. Everybody has a ham radio license. Okay. Except for me. Okay. I've not got mine yet. So everybody else has one, but I do have a ham radio. We all carry ham radios out there, and we have someone who always stays back at base camp. Okay. So a typical expedition for us when we go out there is that we set up a base camp out in the woods, and we have several different locations that we research, that we go to all the time, over and over again, all around the South. It's not just in one area. Okay. It's all over the South, various states. Okay. Different parts of the states and stuff. But there are areas of very high strangeness. And the way that our team picks the areas that we go to is we listen out for local legends and lore. Okay. Because if you hear about a pig man, I know when I was in high school, we had a pig man in the county that I lived in, and we would go, and when I was 16, we would drive down this dirt road to go to pig man's, get out of the car, and we would get chased out by what we call pig man. Okay. Like something would really chase us. I don't know what it was. But local legends and lore like that, a lot of times there's more to it. Okay. If you hear about a pig man, there's probably a Sasquatch, or it could have been a Sasquatch that was misidentified as a pig man. Okay. Or a goat man, or the Loch Ness monster, a water monster of some sort, or just a witch like Spearfinger, the Cherokee legend up in the Appalachian Mountains. When you hear about something like that, there's usually more to it. So, some of my team, they've heard about a ghost road. Okay. And so we went down, some of the guys, they go and they'll scout it out. And then if there's high strangeness going on there, the whole team will go out, and then we'll start doing research there in that area. And so, yeah, so we have some spots that we go to, and we usually get there, and we have a base camp set up, and we go early. Like some of my team will spend like a week or two at a time out in the woods. It just depends. But somebody will go secure base camp early, and then the whole team will come in, and then we will, we set up shop. Basically, everybody puts their tents up, and we get a game plan together. We already have an operation order before we go in, so we know like what the threats are out there. We know like what kind of snakes are going to be out. We know where the closest hospital is in case something happens. We know where the nearest grocery store is. I mean, it's a serious, it's pretty serious. Okay. So we take it very seriously when we're out there. And like I said, it's safety first. And so, yeah, we get everybody there, and then we decide to break off into groups at night. We usually do scouting during the day, where we go and scout the area and kind of get an idea of where we want to set up that night, or for the weekends or the weeks or however long we're there. And yeah, we make a game plan, and then usually when it gets dark, we head out, we hike out, and we set up, and
Wow.
everybody gets their equipment. I mean, I don't take a lot of equipment with me. I get more activity when I don't. And that's like recording devices, thermals and FLIRs and night vision and Geiger meters, all that kind of stuff. Like I don't carry a whole lot of that because I seem to get more activity when I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So I used to go out every single night with my camera. That was my main thing. An audio device would have been a really great idea, though. I bet I could have caught some crazy stuff with that. But now more recently, I don't I go without it and just have, but I usually have some sort of a personal, experience if you're not focused on documenting, like capturing the evidence all the time, at least. But yeah, the evidence is really cool. There was well, I guess we can go into, so there's different types of Sasquatch, and you sent me a picture. Would you want to go over like the different types of, let me share my screen. Let me know if you can, see the picture. Can you see?
It's but no, I don't think that's the right screen because it's a bunch of screens inside a little screen or a big screen.
Okay. Stop screen, present, share screen, Chrome tab, window, just entire screen. This thing can be so annoying. Okay, now can you see?
I can. That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. So
Okay.
there were some other pictures that you shared during the presentation too.
Oh yeah, those were the Dogman pictures actually. So, and I forgot to send you those, but we can go over those too. I can just tell you about them.
Okay.
If you want. Okay. All right. So I'll just kind of go across the screen. Okay. And now this picture, I got this off of, I think it's called Bigfoot 411. They have a great website. If you guys want to go, I think it's called Bigfoot 411. I'm pretty sure. And so they have all the information on the different types of Sasquatch. Now, there are four main types of Sasquatch that we usually talk about. The first type is what we would consider the patty type. Now, that's the one that everybody's familiar with, of the pattern from the Patterson-Gimlin film, and that's with the Sasquatch that we call Patty. Okay, and it is more like, it looks like a cross between a human and a gorilla, basically. And so they are usually pretty docile, like they're not like super violent or anything like that. It's the typical Bigfoot, okay? And it's what when you think of Bigfoot and you see that picture, that's the type 1. Okay, and that's the type that we have mostly across the United States. That's the type that my team encounters. We have a plethora of Sasquatch in Georgia, and of course, and I know you guys you're hearing me say Sasquatch and Bigfoot. I call them Bigfoots usually, but either way is fine, either or. Some people get upset if you call them Bigfoot. I don't know why, but I say Bigfoot. But yeah, the number one, the type 1 would be like the patty that you guys have seen on the video. All right, the type 2, they're a little bit more chimp-like, a little bit more ape-like than the type 1. But we do have these in the South. They have a Neanderthal man-like build with big eyes and big black eyes. Okay, and they're around at 7 feet tall. Okay, the type 1, the Patty type, Patty was only about 6 feet tall. She looked a lot bigger than that in the video, but she's only around 6 feet. But those can get up to, I mean, I can't say how tall they can get, like 12 feet, 15 feet. I mean, I've heard of 20-foot tall Sasquatch. I mean, it just depends. I think it depends on the environment. I think the biggest ones that I've ever remote viewed were like 12 to 15 feet. And they were out of Alaska. Yeah, everything's bigger in Alaska. So Alaska and Texas, everything's bigger. But yes, but both of these, they leave human type footprints, type 1 and type 2. Okay. And the type 3, now this is where it gets a little hairy, so to speak. The type 3s are a little more dangerous. Okay. They're all dangerous. They can be dangerous. I like to equate Sasquatch to like humans. Okay. Like there's a wide variety of humans.
Mhm.
And some of us are very nice. Some of us have bad days.
Mhm.
Some of us are mean, and some of us will eat you. Okay, I guess not us, but there's some crazy people out there that would.
Yeah.
So that's similar to Sasquatch. Now the type threes are what we call the gugways, and they have a long snout on them, and they get confused for a dog man, like a werewolf sometimes.
Okay.
Um, they are not to be messed with and very territorial. And so you really don't want to run into a type three. They mostly live in the mountains. They average around 10 feet tall to 15 feet tall. And they have glowing red eyes usually. But and people have been known to shoot at them if they're being attacked or whatever, and the bullets do not penetrate them, from what I understand. I've never encountered one, so I don't know,
Mhm.
but that's the word on the streets.
Mhm.
Gugwe and Janosquas is what we call them.
Yeah.
That and you know what Gugwe translates to, Lily?
What's that?
Face eater.
Oh
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah, I know. I know
No.
it's terrible. Now
Oh.
the type 4, these are the Neanderthal types. They're what we consider to be wild men. Okay, they just look more like a hairy human, like a feral human, I guess you could say. A lot of times back in like the 1800s and before, there were reports in the newspapers back when the newspapers told the truth a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
But they would post stories about the local wild man was found. Down here in the South, we have the Ocheesee Pond wild man. Okay, is down in Florida. That was reported in the news. This man was actually captured. The hairy man. He was captured, and I believe they took him to the governor's mansion down in Florida. The governor didn't want to have anything to do with it, and so they sent him up to the Chattahoochee Hospital, where reports are he stayed there until he died, and he's buried there on the property somewhere. But he was an actual wild man,
Mm.
um, which some people could have mistaken for a feral human back
Mhm.
in the day. So, but they do look like more like a Neanderthal. Okay, and yeah, of course there's like subgroups to these, like down here in the South we have what we call the skunk ape, and that's one of these types. Actually, a skunk ape I think would be more like a type 1,
Mhm.
in between a type 1 and a type 2, but they're just lanky, skinny looking Bigfoots with long red hair.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones that I've seen, and this has been psychic. So with me personally, go ahead and am I sharing? So okay, we're back. With me personally, the ones that I've seen, kind of looked like the type 1 and the type 4 kind of mixed together, like more human face, but kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
Um, and this has been through psychic connection. So I'll receive visions of them. And I went to Arkansas recently at Board Camp Crystal Mine, and I had some Sasquatch experiences there. And this clan of Sasquatch were with us all week. It was amazing. They were very benevolent. They were helping us with energy work, very spiritual. So the ones that I've encountered have been very spiritual, benevolent, very intelligent beings. But just so that people know, they are like people, and there can
Mhm.
be variations of them. So just practice, being precautious, having caution, or being
Yes.
aware. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they generally won't bother you, but I'm out there doing the research, and so I'm out in the woods, and my team, we do not provoke or anything like that. You watch some of these ghost shows, and you see some of these guys really provoking the spirits and stuff, and we don't do anything like that. We go out to observe and to
Mhm.
communicate, actually.
Right.
And so that's where a lot of even the remote viewing that my team was trained in, we can utilize that sometimes just to do telepathic communication with
Wow.
some of the critters out there, I guess you could call them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wanted to ask about the remote viewing as well. There's something else that I was just about to say. Um, I'm sure it also has to do. So these beings are talking about the Sasquatch or Bigfoot. They're multidimensional beings. There's different variations. Some of them are very spiritual, very wise. And it seems like whenever I reached out to make contact, whenever we were at the Journey to Truth conference in Grafton. The first night I went up there to do a skywatch, pretty instantly, well, they knew that we were there, I'm sure, but pretty instantly, whenever I reached out, I suddenly saw 4 or 5 like silhouettes in like the foliage. It wasn't like physical, but the silhouettes, and they were, I could see them standing there, and they were just basically like observing us. And interestingly, they felt completely different than the Arkansas Sasquatch. So it kind of like startled me at first because their vibe was completely different. So they're just like, people in different clans, they have different ways of doing things. And I remembered also, we should probably ask them to come walking around in their territory too. That's just a kind thing to do. I don't know how on those ghost shows, I don't know how they aren't like attacked by demons all the time.
I think they are. They probably are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's good to have a healthy dose of respect when you're out there, especially dealing with beings that are a lot bigger than you. Like seriously, we try to have as much respect as possible, mutual respect. And we set our intentions, and they're very smart. Okay, very smart. They know your intentions. They work off of energy, just like we do if we pay attention to it. They can feel your frequency and kind of feel where you're at before you even get out there,
Right.
Which is very interesting. And it's something that I learned right away. They know, they can sense you, and they even sometimes, you can make contact with them before you even get out in the field, and let them know you're coming. Yeah, but they know anyways.
Yeah,
I'm convinced. Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with that. So with the remote viewing aspect, can you share, I think that is just such a cool piece to what you guys do. Can you share about what is remote viewing and how you utilize it and what you found through remote viewing?
Yeah. Well, remote viewing is just a way to locate a target by using your senses, basically, using your psychic faculties, I guess you could call it. Remote viewing is something that our governments have used. Okay. The United States, Russia was using it back during the Cold War. I think actually the Soviet Union was using it during the Cold War. And so the United States was like, well, if they've got psychic spies, we're going to have psychic spies. So the governments, the military started utilizing psychic spies, and there are people that are part of those programs and stuff. I guess I from what I understand, I don't know if the government admits to still using them or not. I don't know the history behind it. Yeah. Sorry, I think my computer just kind of blurred out there.
I think you're good now.
So yeah, it's okay. Good. Okay, sorry, I froze up there for a second. We're having storms here, and so my internet's a little bit bad today. Sorry about that. But yeah, so my team was trained in remote viewing. Okay, one of the heads of one of my teams is an amazing remote viewer and very highly trained in it. And he decided that it was important for us to learn as a team remote viewing so that we could go back and look into events that happened to us out in the field that we didn't understand, like that missing time that my partner and I had out there with the time, the clocks going backwards and forwards and things like that, and those bottle rockets. And so, yeah, it's basically, I didn't know at all what remote viewing was. I never heard of it until he told us he was ready to start training us in it. And he gave us the option. He was like, you can learn it or don't. He's like, it's going to be a lot of work. And it's going to be pretty tedious, but you'll appreciate it in the end, I think. And so we're like, well, let's do it. Why not? Every one of us is able to learn remote viewing the way that we learn it. And I know some people see remote viewing differently than the way I'm about to describe it, because anybody can just hone in psychically into something, right? And that's just an inherent ability that we all have. Now, remote viewing is actually a structured way with graphs and charts and all sorts of stuff, like a scientific way to utilize your psychic abilities. Okay.
Mhm.
What I'm doing and what I've been trained to do is I do mostly coordinate remote viewing. And like I said, it's something that our military has utilized for a long time.
Right.
And I am given a set of numbers. Okay. And that's a set of 8 numbers usually. And those numbers, that's all I have. And I've been trained to take those numbers, and there's a process where we have stages, like stage 1 through 5 or 6. It depends. And I I sit down with my stack of paper and a couple of pens in case I run out of ink on one of my pens, and I write those numbers down, and I kind of plot out some charts, and I write my numbers down, and there's a process that I go through, and all this information starts flooding into my environment. Okay. Like I'm pulling information out of the matrix and I'm writing it down. And like I said, I have no idea what this target is, but that those numbers have been assigned to a target. And that could be an object. It could be an event. It could be a person. It could be a missing person. I oftentimes have gotten high priority targets assigned to me, which are usually a missing person or even a cold case that
Mhm.
somebody needs help with. And so I'm able to go in and take that set of numbers and get all the psychic information that comes flooding to me during this process. And I go sheet after sheet after sheet of paper, drawing and writing and automatic writing with ideograms and deep mind probes and all sorts of interesting stuff that I'm able to do. And when the information quits flowing, I shut it down, the process,
Mhm.
and I can pretty much tell you what that target was
Wow.
at the end. Yeah, it's and sometimes I can't tell you because I have no idea,
Mhm.
but it's just what I think that target might be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually very interesting. So that's what the technical side of remote viewing
Mhm.
is something like that. And there are different modes. It's not only coordinate remote viewing. We have like energetic remote viewing and written remote viewing. There's all sorts of different modes,
Mhm.
but that's the one that I utilize the most.
Okay. So how did you guys do your training? Did you use, I know the CIA, don't they have documents explaining the whole process, right? Is that
Mhm.
how you guys trained or?
Similarly, yes.
Mhm.
Now we use the process like Ingo Swan
Okay.
taught, and so that's where I am with it. Is very technical. Okay. And I know people ask me all the time if I teach remote viewing, and I have not taught remote viewing. I've taught it to
Really?
one person actually. Yeah. I taught remote viewing to one person, and I gave him the shortcut version of
Mhm.
some touch and go stuff that I know how to do.
Mhm.
And he was hitting every target I gave him by the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So
me next.
I know, right? Right.
Well, I
Well, I'd
practically.
love to start teaching remote. I'd love to start teaching it. I think that would be great. I think a lot of people need to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Mhm.
And so get if it's in the wrong hands too, it could be very dangerous because
And
it's very intrusive. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and that's
that's
where.
why I have not taught it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, and that's where also, and I was gonna say Tony Rodriguez was kinda giving me the breakdown of, the structure between it, and I remote viewed, but I accidentally remote viewed him in his house, and I got, like, everything, like, the fan, he was watching a Chinese movie, I had, like, some Chinese stuff. It was all of it, so I did pretty
Oh
good,
gosh.
I got the wrong target. So that
They're
was.
like, Tony, what are you? Why did you do this? What are you wearing? What is going on here?
Yeah, I had the table, the laptop, all that stuff. It was pretty funny.
Oh my gosh, Tony's so funny. I actually have given him some blind targets before for his group because he does a weekly meetup
Yeah.
on Zoom, and I've given him a couple of targets to look into.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. So we have to that's where I wasn't doing it before. I would just decide, okay, I want to remote view the moon, for example, which I have, but somehow whenever I
Ooh,
ask,
careful,
okay, so
careful
no,
with that one.
so yeah, so here's what happened. Like my guides, my star family, I'm in contact with them pretty frequently. I heard that, you're not supposed to remote view that. And so I asked them, is it okay? And they were like, no. And I said, okay, well, can I view it from a different point in time? So they helped guide me to seeing it from a totally different time. So I still got to see that it was, a big structure that opens up. There's metal structural structures in it, a red light. There were different ETs there, like the Pleiadians and Mantis beings, and a big variety. So I kind of went around that a little bit. Have you ever?
Very nice.
Yeah, but so I haven't actually like had somebody give me a blind target that I don't know what it is, which is besides with Tony. So I could see that you're really testing yourself. So that's
yeah. Well, that's what I do, and that's when I was presenting in Grafton at the conference, I had Barry there with me, and Barry presented separately from my presentation, but then we came together in the middle of our presentations and did a presentation together, because Barry has been giving me a lot. I taught him how to assign me targets, and he's an amazing researcher. He's assigned me some of the most interesting targets, and it's hard to argue that data because I'm just given a set of numbers, and it's stuff that he is very versed on, these topics or these subjects that he gives me, and then but I'm coming up with all this data that puts a whole other spin on some of this stuff. Like, for instance, the TRAPPIST-1 star system. Okay, that was one of my targets, and also ET bases on dwarf planets. That was another. And a lot of these targets, I'm seeing what I think I'm remote viewing Earth in the future. There's civilizations there. There's humans there. There's shopping centers, and there are high-rise apartments and mid-rise apartments and vehicles, cars, and humans, but also humanoids, people that look human but aren't totally human. And stuff. So I'm assuming I'm remote viewing the Earth in the future when he asked what I think I'm remote viewing at the end. And he's like, no, Jessica, that's another star system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. So with remote viewing, as soon as I mentioned the moon, you were like, Are there, so can you share why you're like,
Because I got in trouble. That's why. I actually got, okay, so of all the targets I've ever done publicly, okay, because I do a show every Thursday night on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, where usually Barry has given me targets, okay, and I do my blind targets, and we explored cryptids for the most part, and the next show that I'm doing is I like to also remote view people's properties that are having cryptid sightings or whatever's going on. I don't really know exactly what all's going on until I remote view it. And then like this next week, I'm actually going to go to this woman's property to do an investigation. So I was able to remote view her property. She's coming on my show. We're going to talk about it. So I really enjoyed remote viewing properties and stuff. So that it's this haunted, okay, with Bigfoots on it. But yeah, Barry gives me targets, and I'm able to remote view a lot of this cryptids, like stuff I've never even heard of, and I don't know what I'm remote viewing. And especially when I get stuff from Barry, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to get, because it can be anything from the Kushtaka, which is the otter man up in Alaska, to, I mean, bases on the other, I don't know, bases on planets now. Okay, so the moon, let me get back to the moon. I pushed the boundaries, and I knew that I had been told not to ever remote view the moon. Okay. Or certain aspects of the moon, and especially not to go public with it. And I was feeling good, and I was having a great go of at my show. And I thought, I'm just going to see what happens. Why not? I remote viewed the Apollo 11 moon landing. And about 2 hours before my show was going live, I got the proverbial knock at my door. So yeah, I was told to keep my mouth shut, and I had people watching me basically. And so I went on with the show, and I did it, but I didn't really talk about all my data, and people got very upset with me over that. And it wasn't the people that told me to keep my mouth shut. It was the audience. They were like, well, how dare you not tell us all the data? I was like, well, I'm a single parent, and I have a healthy dose of respect. Like I've been saying this whole entire show, I have a healthy dose of respect. And so there's that factor, and there's that aspect of all of the remote viewing stuff. Is there are boundaries, unfortunately, to some of these things. So yeah, it just depends, I guess. But yeah, I will not remote view that ever again.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
It is.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Okay, so what else? There's some things I want to say, but I maybe better not to talk about it. So just be mindful of places.
Just be mindful. Yeah. Well, I just would advise people to like, and I'm just speaking from experience is that, okay, here's another thing. My show, I have been contacted by someone who said that, my channel has been banned at certain government agencies and government facilities, let's just say. So I know that I'm on to something. I mean, that doesn't just happen to
Right.
just anybody, to anybody's channels, where my show gets blocked at some of these government buildings, federal government buildings and stuff. So I do know that I'm onto something, and I do know that I have a file on me the size of Mount Rushmore, probably, um, for being not only a Bigfoot researcher but a remote viewer. So, and and we also have these. I've had ET contact. When I
Mm.
started having a lot of strange things happen out in the field, the head of our team was like, "Hey, I need you to start researching ET abductions,"
Ah,
because he figured that we had probably been abducted out in the field with some of the things that had happened to us while we were Bigfoot researching. And so as soon as I started reading about it, I started having ETs in my house and
wow.
stuff. So yeah, so however it's connected, I'm not sure. It could have just been that my frequency was changing, and
Mm.
I'm now able to see things that I didn't pay attention to before, or I just was not on that frequency to see it.
Right.
Also, there's the aspect of, did I manifest it? You
Yeah.
know, so it's more than just Bigfoot and ETs. There's a frequency, there's a vibration to all of this, I'm obviously on the vibration at this point. I have a lot
Mhm.
of contact. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, it's like whenever you become aware of it and open your mind to it, it draws that
mhm,
uh,
that's
to
right.
you also. So I wanted to ask, I think that's really, really interesting how your teammate wanted you to learn remote viewing so that you could remote view what was happening that you guys weren't aware of. So do you mind
Mhm.
mentioning whenever you were remote viewed, whenever that instance was where the time got weird and the bottle rockets, did you remote view that? Would you like to share what came out of it?
Yes. Well, I can explain kind of what happened that night too.
Mhm.
Just to backtrack a little bit, because the whole point of us going out there to this field, and when we had this experience, was the night before I had had a really strange occurrence where I was walking up a hill. I was by myself, and all the guys were down at the bottom of the hill watching me through their thermal imaging cameras and their night vision cameras, and the goal was to send me up the hill by myself up to a tree line about 100 yards up the hill. Okay,
Mhm.
where there had been some Bigfoot activity the night before, I guess, and so I decided I walked up there. It was the first time I had ever been Bigfooting in my entire life. And I walked up this hill, and I got like halfway up the hill, and something, I thought it was one of the guys that came running up behind me and smacked the back of my legs and kept running past me. But there was nobody there. There was nothing there. And so I kept walking, and I got up to almost to the tree line, and one of the guys did come up behind me to make sure I was okay, because they had seen me kind of jump up into the air, like I kind of stumbled, lost my balance. I didn't stumble, I just kind of lost my balance a little bit, and I
Mhm.
flung my arms up in the air. And
Yeah.
that was the distress call. They said, "If anything happens, just throw your arms up in the air." Okay, because
Mhm.
I didn't have a radio back then. It was my first time out there. And so I was fine, but I was like, "Okay, that was really weird." Some I thought one of y'all ran up behind me.
Mhm.
Um, Anyways, long story short, we sat there for a little while, we talked, and I felt inclined to walk over to the corner of this tree line.
Mhm.
And the guys down at the bottom of the hill told me that as I walked over there and I stood right in front of this tree, a Bigfoot leaned its head out and stared at me. But
Ah,
I couldn't, so I didn't know, because it was so dark outside, I couldn't see anything. But something led me that direction. And they saw it. And so the next day we decided, well, some of us, we're all gonna break off into groups again and go to different areas of this location. And the guy who had seen the Bigfoot peek its head around the tree and right in front of me, he and I decided to go on a we called it like a black ops mission. Okay, we were going to go out to that same field, basically right where that Bigfoot had been seen looking around the tree the night before, and we were going to wear our camo I think he had on a ghillie suit, and we were going to take our stuff and go out there during the day and sit there in the tree line and become one with the trees. Okay, like camouflage ourselves into the trees and hang out through the night, basically. And the group was going to come out as a big group and put their camping chairs in the middle of this open field around 9 o'clock that night, and make a bunch of noise and act like normal humans, just having a good time. And we were hoping that Bigfoot would come through the trees and step on us. Okay, like my friend and I, we were gonna get to witness the Bigfoot walking to observe our friends. Okay. Well, we got a lot more than we bargained for when we got out there, because we sat out there all day. And and I had my EVP recorder on. And so we're talking, and we're noticing, as it's getting dark, we're noticing this light. It looks like a big bright light on the side of the mountain right beside us. And we could see this light, and it was going in a horizontal line back and forth from right to left and left to right. And our rational, your rational brain tries to make sense of things. Okay. And so we were thinking, well, there has to be a car on a road right there. But then we realized there's no road on that side of that mountain. And also there's no trail or anything that's going to be like straight, it'd be winding. And but we were thinking, well, maybe it's a person holding a lantern or something, but it wasn't that either. And so we were watching this light, and then it got more dark, and we could see lights up in the sky that were moving in triangular patterns. Like they weren't moving. It wasn't like airplanes. Okay. And and I remember feeling like kind of tired. I was like, I know I'm not this tired. Like I'd gotten plenty of sleep. But I was kind of like coming in and out of like being tired, not. And our equipment, we noticed the times were changing on our equipment. And you can hear us saying that in the recording that I had. And I guess the team came out and they did their thing, and they were loud, and there were no Bigfoots. But while they were down there trying to figure out where he and I were, because we didn't tell anybody where we were hiding. We didn't tell them. But about 10 feet from where we were sitting, there were these red lights in the tree line, red lights. And so they assumed it was he and I, but it wasn't us. Okay. So a lot of weird stuff was going on. And I think that's most of it, but I don't remember. Okay. And so around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, like we all went back to base camp, and they told me, they kept saying, Jessica, you just seem off. Like there's something different, something. Are you sure nothing happened to you? And I was like, I hope not. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. But yeah, we figured that something else had happened, because there was too much going on that night. And so we did eventually, well, see, the guy who was with me, he was already trained in remote viewing. And so they had done a remote viewing session the next day, or a couple days later, I guess. And almost like a hypnotic type of energetic remote viewing session. And he did see there was a lot of stuff that did happen. And we had been accosted by a craft that was out there. That light was a little triangular craft. And it found us. I think it was on a mission to try to find out what was wrong with the environment. And that was us. We were hiding, wearing camo, and it detected an anomaly in the environment, and it was scouting, trying to find out what was going on. And when it found us, and it scanned us, and put us both to sleep, basically. And I think that's what those bottle rocket sounds were and stuff like that. It was locating us. And it definitely found us. So, but I don't believe it took us though. That was not part of the remote viewing data, but
okay.
But it was interesting though. And it was able to scan us and find out who we were and what we were doing there.
Yeah. I bet they can do that pretty easily. That's interesting. So it was benign. It wasn't anything malicious.
I don't think so. No, I didn't. Yeah. I mean, I've rarely run into anything out there that seems super scary and super dangerous. I mean, it's all you've got to expect the worst, and you've got to protect yourself. You got to spiritually, energetically, and physically. It's important to always be aware of your surroundings and protect yourself. We always put protective energy bubbles around us. Okay, and it's a spiritual thing for sure, energetic for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to ask real quick, and then we'll wrap it up because I also wanted to show you a picture of the portal that I got and get your thoughts on that.
Oh,
But so
nice.
there, yeah. So there was a time where you and your teammates, did you see a portal or did you document a portal on like a thermo camera or what happened with that?
Yeah, that was at a place that we call the Meadow,
Mm-hmm.
and that was I think it was about 5 years ago. So it happened a while back, but, yeah, the team was in the Meadow one weekend, and, the team had dispersed into different parts of the Meadow. Like, we go out there and we just basically we just observe, okay, because we have so much weird stuff going on out there, from Bigfoot sightings to UFOs to light beings and possible Men in Black stuff showing up at the camp and stuff like that. Like, we just have a lot of weird stuff going on. Orbs, uh, watching people in our equipment turn into orbs and shoot across the field. I mean, it's just weird. Missing a lot of missing time elements, and I've even heard a disembodied voice say, from when I was hiking into the Meadow, I heard a woman's voice say, "Time travel," really loud, and nobody else heard it. And then about a month or two later, I realized that was my voice that I had
Oh
heard.
my gosh, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Recently, I've been getting a lot of stuff about time travel. Like,
me too. Me too. It's every I mean, every day. There's something about timelines, time shifts, time edits, times. There's a lot of time manipulation going on right now. A
yeah,
lot Mandela effect stuff, you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so the team had dispersed in a whole bunch of little teams, like 2-man teams, 3-man teams, all around the Meadow, and there was team one. We're gonna call them team one. They were posted up in the front, like when you first walk into the Meadow. Okay, and to the audience, you guys probably don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but it's a place out in the South, undisclosed location. We call it the Skinwalker Ranch of the South. Okay, and it's a wooded tree line, a dense forest, and you hike in, and there's this open field comes out of nowhere. It's this huge open field, several acres of land, and so the team was set up, and one of the guys, okay, we're going to call him David. David was looking through his FLIR, or his thermal imaging camera, and
Mhm.
noticed that there was like a big square, like a cube, that showed up, and it wasn't like a solid object. It was a outline of a heat signature of something that looked like a cube. And he thought he was seeing things because this was an open field, and he thought, man, that is really weird. And so he had his partner over here, Terry, looking to check it out, and he saw it too. And then my friend Kristen, who's on the team, um, she had her her FLIR and turned it on the recorder, so she was recording this.
Mhm.
And they radioed over to another team across the field, and they said, "Hey, there's this weird thing that just showed up on thermal. Will you go check it out?" And so you can see these heat signatures in the video of there's actually 3 men that walk over towards it. 2 of the men are guided right up to this gigantic cube, and as
Mhm.
they walk over to it, their heat signatures disappear.
Wow.
And they did not know what they didn't know they were walking into anything. They just thought they were being guided over to a part of the field where they were going to go check out a cube, whatever this cube was, but there was nothing. They couldn't see it with their own eyes.
Wow.
Um, so they walked over to it, they disappeared, and they said that it was like walking into a black velvet curtain, and the temperature dropped, the stars disappeared, the vegetation changed on the ground, where it went from like brushy and muddy and whatever to smooth. And they're both trained in remote viewing, by the way, and we're trained to notice energetic shifts. And
Mhm.
they're both retired military, both of them, and search and rescue guys and things like that. So they knew that there was something off,
Wow.
and they walked out, and their heat signatures reappeared.
Wow.
And after they walked back out, the cube shrunk down, and then it disappeared.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Very, very interesting. So portals seems to be a very common theme, how these beings and things and anomalies are traveling.
Yeah, I think
Very,
so. Yeah,
mhm,
I think that we have like Earth has natural portals that they are utilizing.
mhm.
I also think that there are man-made portals.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that may have been what my team encountered, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. And I remember during the conference you mentioned how I was mentioning this very briefly, but how you remote viewed under you discovered that there was some sort of a base under where some of these weird things were happening,
Oh,
which is
there's
great.
bases come up often. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The base underground facilities come up very often in my data when I'm remote viewing cryptids.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I do
People could
believe
be
that there are,
I was going to say people
yeah,
can be actually opening and causing these anomalies with these underground bases. They're doing
yeah,
something.
absolutely. Well, well, there's also the aspect of a lot of the cryptids that we're dealing with too are dark. Okay, and uh, when I say dark, I mean like werewolf type stuff, like Skinwalker stuff, and some of these cryptids are coming through portals that people open through rituals and blood magic and blood. Blood has a lot to do with a lot of these cryptids, actually, believe it or not, which is a little scary. So
Yeah.
a lot of dark stuff going on out there, but also a lot of really peaceful, nice stuff going on too. So
Right.
we're just
Yeah.
trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and I will say, I agree with that. My star family has begun showing me some of those things that are going on, and it's nuts. It's hard to believe, but yeah, you have definitely some cojones to go out there in the field.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. I appreciate that.
yeah. I wanted to show you this. I'll show this picture real quick. Entire screen. Okay, let me know if it works. Can you?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so this is one of the ships that I caught during a CE5 human initiated contact. You can see it's kind of moving. Like it was different in all three photographs. Like it was like morphing.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a great capture.
Thank you. That's one of my best ones. Very
I
amazing. And
love
this was,
that.
yeah, I don't know what that orange thing is. This was in the middle of a park. In the whole picture, I'm meditating right in front to make contact, and then I set up a time lapse and captured this vehicle in 3 different photos.
Oh, wow. Now, do you think that's a portal that it's coming in of or in or out
No,
of?
so here's the other one. So this is another one I caught at the same location. You can see me over here. I love it whenever they like let me get in the photograph with them. And then they showed up over here, and this was another time lapse. They only showed up in one photo, so they were only there for like a second. And so this is what I
Oh,
think
oh my
it
god.
seems like a tear. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. You have some great shots and you're in the picture too. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I do believe that these UFOs are coming in and out of portals 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. This is getting me excited and pumped to want to go out. That was my thing. I was going out every single day making contact and documenting it. And a lot of this stuff you can't see with your eyes. It's out of our visible light spectrum or our hearing spectrum. It's just nuts. So yeah, that was another reason why I was really drawn to you, because you're out doing this in the field. It's amazing.
Well,
So
thank
thank
you.
you.
I'm out there just having fun
Yeah.
and having experiences and like I'd mentioned that like I'm on 3 different teams and every team is different. Okay. And I've always been the girl on the team that's like, I don't have a ton of equipment that I take out there with me because I'm
Mhm.
out there to experience. I'm out there to communicate. I'm out there just to bring it up, take it all in. And whatever happens, happens. I'm also a high strangeness magnet. So I think a lot of the guys like it when I go because I bring the high strangeness with me. It's like I don't know if it's the light I'm emitting off my body. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times when I'm out there, we do have a lot of activity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just fun, and I'm
Yeah.
inoculated to it, by the way, so I don't get too scared when I'm out there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I wonder what would happen if we went out.
Oh my gosh, you should come with me sometime if you're ever in Georgia or around the South somewhere. Come hang out with me. I'll take you.
I would love to. I would love to. Thank you. So for everybody in the audience, where can everybody find you? What are you up to? You have a YouTube channel and a website. Would you like to share where everybody could find you?
Yeah, well, my YouTube channel is The Cryptid Huntress, and I have a couple of live shows every week on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then you can find me on Spaced Out Radio on their YouTube channel and all over social media. Saturday and Sunday night, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, is my live show there. And yeah, I have a website. It's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there, all of the events I'm going to be at, and any kind of extra special stuff, it's all on my website. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me, there's a place, as soon as you log on to my website, a box pops up and you guys can contact me right there. So yeah, the Cryptid Huntress all over social media. Y'all come find me.
Okay, awesome. And I'll have the links and everything in the description as well. Well, thank you so much. It was so lovely speaking with you again. And everybody enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.